Yo, what is up guys, Gray here, and today we have got our draft analysis for the BBR Season 3. And first off, I would like to thank Mid for inviting me back. We had a blast last season. Unfortunately, didn't do quite as well as we were hoping, but we're back this season and we're going to do better. I'm adamant that we're going to do better than last season. Honestly, BBR Season 2 was probably like the worst season I've had outside of Showdown Leagues. For quite a while, so I was really disappointed in how I performed. I felt like I came back quite strong in the second half of the season, but certainly the first half of the season was just atrocious. But anyway, before we get into anything, down in the description below is a link to all of the coaches that are going to be involved in this season. We have some new guys, we have some very familiar names, and of course we have like a ton of the returning coaches, so make sure to go down and show all of them some love, because they are just an awesome group of guys. And let's get into the draft. So first up, the rules are that we have 1100 points and we've got to draft 11 mons, and that is a very tight budget, but very different from last season where we had 1200 in the budget and we had to draft 10 mons. So effectively we're going to have to be much more looking at like our budget picks and getting value out of that than just being able to draft a busted team. And I can see like both sides of the coin as to why that's a good thing and a bad thing, but I actually really like the fact that we're going to be emphasizing budget picks and getting value from lower tier mons. It really shows like your ability as a coach, that you're not just using like broken mons to get results. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to using some of my budget picks because I think they're going to be really good for this team. But also, this team is just kind of nuts, and I know every coach will say that about their own team, but I really like this team. It's certainly got a few weaknesses here and there, but with the budget, it was always going to happen. It's very difficult to pick up a very good team with all of the niches filled with like budget picks involved. But enough rambling. Let's get into the draft order, which I forgot to mention that we actually have 20 coaches this season. We've gone up from 16 to 20, so there's a bunch of new people this season, and we just wanted to get as many coaches in basically as we could. So there is a 20-man draft, and unfortunately we were not able to get a good pick. I say a good pick, we got 18th, and it's not ideal because it means that the first pick is probably not going to be as strong as any of the top 10, but at the same time, like, we almost have a wheel pick. So although we have like a very low pick, we're going to be able to try and get some synergy on each of our like wheel picks to try and get a solid draft. And my plan for the first pick was just simply pick up the best thing on the board. Whatever is left, 17 picks like have gone, and whatever the best thing is, just going to go for it and then go from there. And I was actually amazed that I think one of the top 5 mons, in my opinion, actually made it to 18th. That Pokemon is Zygarde. For people who have been playing Showdown, this is actually arguably the best mon on the ladder. Just like hands down the best thing on the ladder. So for it to last 17 picks, I guess the 18th is me. It's kind of wild. So yeah, Zygarde is fantastic in this gen. It has so much versatility in what it can do. It's very difficult to break because its defenses are very good. There's no hidden power ice in this gen. Its speed stat is very strong for how bulky it is. And also it has the access to the move 1000 Arrows that is unresisted within the game. Like, flying types get brought down to the ground by it. It's not like there's no immunity there. So it's just a very free move to spam. Access to extreme speed, so you've got +2 priority. Also, things like Scale Shot it got this gen, and not to mention it has set up in Dragon Dance and Coil, and status moves like Glare and Toxic. Glare is just very strong this gen. 100% accurate move that guarantees paralysis. It's just kind of wild, but it's just a very good mon. It has so many different sets it can run. Of course, you got like Dragon Dance sets, you got like sub Coil sets, you can run sub Glare, sub Toxic, Choice Band. There's just so much you can do with this mon. It's just a very solid first pick. It does give me a ground type that's not got rocks, but we can make up for that later with other picks. And yeah, it's one major weakness was in the past that it was weak to Hidden Power Ice, and that is now no longer in the game. So yeah, Zygarde is looking really scary this gen, and I can't believe it made it all the way to me in 18th. And way back in the day, I had a draft with Zygarde, and it's arguably the best I've ever done in the league. It's like definitely up there. I went like 11-4, I think, in that season. It was a long ass season, 15 game season, but yeah, went 11-4. It was in Gen 7, and I drafted it with Victini, and I really wanted to pick up Victini again. However, if the 4 picks that are between my 2 picks, Victini went. Unfortunately, Shay picked that up. Spoilers for Shay's draft. My bad. I didn't mean to. I didn't even think about that. But I don't think anyone's coming to my draft video before yours, so it's all good. But actually, I think it may be a blessing to not be able to pick up Victini. As we got Heatran instead. I think this is fantastic value at 160, which is still like the 3rd highest points tier, but Heatran is just fantastic this gen. This could arguably be a round 1 pick. In the past, probably not because of Hidden Power Ground, but much like with Zygarde, Hidden Power's gone. Don't have to worry about random ground moves just appearing out of nowhere, and you can kind of play around the like strong ground moves that are going to be able to like do real good damage to you. Heatran is just fantastic. It's so versatile. Like with Zygarde, it's just amazing versatility. Moves like Magma Storm, Eruption, Flash Cannon. It gets access to Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, Toxic. You can run like a sub-toxic set with Magma Storm and just kind of stall out your opponents. You can be Choice Scarf or Choice Specs with Eruption that you can now run with any nature because thanks to the mints that were introduced in this gen. There's just so much you can do with Heatran. It can be offensive, it can be defensive, and just do an amazing job. And especially partnered with Zygarde, those two just synergize so well. With Heatran resisting all 3 of Zygarde's weaknesses in Ice, Dragon, and Fairy. In fact, it 4 times resists Fairy and Ice. So amazing partner for Zygarde. It really gives Zygarde much more freedom to do whatever it wants to do. And with that, it also gives me the start to my Dragon Steel Fairy Core, as well as like this is the start to my Fire, Water, Grass Core. And I'm going to finish up my Dragon Steel Fairy Core, in fact, with the next pick, and that's going to be Tapu Fini. And I feel like Tapu Fini is just really nice for these 2 Pokemon in particular, because it's arguably one of the best counters to Zygarde and Heatran, and I've managed to get it on my team. How I managed to also last, like some 40 odd picks to make it back to me, that's kind of wild. I didn't expect to get Tapu Fini. I was planning to pick up maybe a Azumarill or Primarina should they come around, but Tapu Fini made it to me, and this mon is really good in this gen. Granted, better in VGC than it is in singles, but it's still very good. Having access to Water and Fairy stabs, just fantastic stabs, brilliant defenses, pretty good speed stat as well for a more bulky mon, and access to things like Defog, Taunt, Calm Mind, Haze, albeit Defog actually removes terrain, which sucks because it means then you can be statused, but for the most part, Tapu Fini is one of those mons that is going to deter status just by the fact that it's got the Misty Terrain, so it's not really the end of the world. It also gets access to Draining Kiss and Stored Power in this gen, which works so nicely with the Calm Mind sets. Obviously Surf and Moonblast are very solid. Nature's Madness does 50% to anything. So yeah, Tapu Fini is looking really strong this gen. It partners really nicely with Heatran and Zygarde. So at this point I'm looking at my budget and going already like halfway to complete budget, and I've only picked up 3 mons. So the rest of the draft is obviously not going to be quite as flashy and expensive as the first 3 picks, but we decided to finish off our Fire, Water, Grass Core with Decidueye with our 4th pick. 100 points for Decidueye I thought was pretty good. It's like a solid tier 3 mon, and 100 points I'd say is like on the lower end of tier 3. It's kind of awkward in the way the BBR points work, but I would say like 100 points is borderline tier 4. So I thought 100 points was really good for this mon. Gives me another defog user, which is ideal, especially with my next pick. yeah, another defog user. It gives me potential setup on the special and physical side. It gives me fantastic stabs in grass and ghost. Poltergeist is a really nice addition to this thing, as well as, I guess, dual wing beat. But it also has access to U-turn. Long reach means it doesn't matter about, doesn't care about rocky helmet or iron barb, stuff like that. And yeah, outside of that, it gives me a potential defensive mon as well as a good setup sweeper. It can be, it does have priority in Sucker Punch and Shadow Sneak. And again, it's just a really versatile mon. I think all 4 of my mons at the moment are completely like versatile and can do whatever. So yeah, really happy to pick up the Decidueye. It does give me another great defensive and offensive option. And I'm really looking forward to using it because I haven't used it since like the start of Gen 7. And I had a lot of fun with it back then, and now it's got some new things to do, even better. With our 5th pick, I decided I want to pick up something for thumbnails, so that's why we got Articuno. But no, seriously, I did want to pick up something that was brand new this gen. I was looking at the Galarian birds, and I kind of want to pick up any of them, and I think Zapdos went in round 1, and Moltres went during round 4 or 5, I think. But that's okay, because I actually wanted Galarian Articuno from the beginning anyway. It gives me a really strong special attacker that, again, has got a good speed stat, good defenses, and also gives me a ground immunity. Also gives me a deterrent for Intimidate, which is amazing, because Zygarde being around, I don't want Intimidate just to be like splashed everywhere, and I do have quite a physical team with the rest of my draft, so having competitive means that it's a deterrent to people bringing Intimidate. And yeah, Articuno is looking really, really good. It's the only one of the Galarian birds that actually gets access to Roost. However, unfortunately, it doesn't get Defog, which would have been really nice, but we do have 2 Defog users in Finny and Decidueye, so it's not really the end of the world because my non-flying types actually have Defog that the flying type is lacking. So, unfortunate, but you can't have it all. Galarian Articuno has just a terrifying special attack stat at 125, as well as access to things like Calm Mind. Its stabs are really, really strong, but it does lack quite a lot of coverage. But at the end of the day, I think Articuno is one of those mons that if you position it right, it can do a lot of work, and it can be, again, a really good like defensive mon. It can be really good offensively. It can be a setup sweeper. Like, it's got so many roles that it can play on a team, and because it does get access to recover, it actually can like survive a long time in a battle and actually have a role to play for the entire game. So really looking forward to using Articuno in Draft League, because I mean, it's the first league since Crown Tundra. I've got to pick up something that like is going to get me some views. But no, it should be a really good one. Next up, we picked up Lycanroc Day, and I know it's a meme from way back at the start of Gen 7 that it's not a grey draft if it doesn't have a Lycanroc. And sure, that may be true back then, but it's been a while since I actually drafted Lycanroc, and this mon is just so good. I actually prefer it over Dusk, not just because it was 60 points cheaper, which is like amazing value. I don't think it's 60 points cheaper at all than Lycanroc Dusk, but yeah, it gets access to the same moves. It gets access to Stone Edge, Cell Rock, Sucker Punch, Play Rough, Close Combat, Drill Run, Psychic Fangs. I think it gets all the Elemental Fangs as well. It just has a ton of coverage, but it also is base 112 speed, which is amazing for outspeeding those base 110 mons like Gengar, Latias, Latios. Struggling to think of actually any other base 110s off the top of my head, but I know that like you got Thunderous and Tornadus incarnate forms, I think, are base 111. So yeah, it also outspeeds them at base 112. Has a great attack stat as well. I think it's 115 from memory. So it's really, really good. And it gives me a nice speed stat for this team, which was kind of lacking anything above base 100. Gives me a nice speed stat. It also gives me a really strong physical attacker. And it partners really nicely with Zygarde, in my opinion, because it kind of breaks down the things that Zygarde is struggling to break down itself. So it can kind of punch a hole through some like bulky grounds, bulky fairies, stuff like that. Bulky grass types as well, that then gives Zygarde the opportunity to potentially set up and just win the game later on. Lycanroc Day was also part of that team that I drafted that did really well. Granted, that was his C moves, but it was like, I think Zygarde got like 8 kills and Lycanroc got like 17. So
Certainly something that I very much rate, being on the same team as Zygarde. I'm really excited to use it this season because I think with the like budget how it is and how there's going to be more budget picks, I think it's going to be really, really strong. Next up, we picked up Pangoro, and Pangoro is a really, really strong physical attacker. And I think because I didn't want to basically put Zygarde in a position where it has to be choice banded to do any damage, I decided to pick up two really strong physical attackers back to back. Pangoro is really good this gen. I think people kind of sleep on it because if there wasn't enough Intimidate Deterrent in Articuno, Scrappy also makes it immune to Intimidate, so it can't actually have its attack dropped at all, through the ability at least. And it's just a really strong option in terms of like, it's surprisingly bulky. Sure, its speed isn't great, but it can be a decent choice Scarfer. It's a great choice banded mon. Good Assault Vest user, gets access to things like Drain Punch, which makes it much better for that. Priority and Bullet Punch is really nice for dealing with fairies. And Dark Fighting is actually a really, really good dual stab. So, as well as it gets all the coverage, because it's a fighting type, it gets all the punches, gets access to things like Gunk Shot, Iron Head, Earthquake, Stone Edge. Just, yeah, tons of coverage, access to Parting Shot as well, which is a really nice pivot move. So yeah, I think that Pangoro is really strong for this team. Granted, it's not like the most amazing fighting type, but at the same time, it's really, really good, especially partnered with things like Heatran and Tapu Fini. I think it's going to have a really, really good time. So yeah, excited to use Pangoro again. Next up, we pick up something that I've actually never used before, but I thought was amazing value at 60 points, and that's Rotom Frost. Rotom Frost is Electric Ice, which is a really unique typing. Only Arctozolt has the same typing from memory. I believe that's true. But it's a good special attacker with the ability to run heavy duty boots this gen. Is actually a really solid defogger. I don't feel like it's actually that much worse than the other Rotom forms. The only downside it has is that it got to actually hit Blizzard to be able to make use of its Ice type stab. Access to Will-O-Wisp, Thunderwave, and Moxie. I literally looked over another sheet that had Moxie on it, and for some reason my brain immediately went to that. Access to Will-O-Wisp, Thunderwave, and Toxic is the word I was looking for, as well as some coverage options in Hex, Dark Pulse, gets stored power this gen. So there's definitely some things it can do. Nasty Plot sets are really good, especially with something like Blunder Policy. If we come up against a Hail team, then Blizzard is never going to miss, which is really nice. And also, if we come up against a Rain team, we can run something like Thunder and not be able to miss as well. Great pivot with the ability, like I said, to run heavy duty boots as well as having Volt Switch. And much like Rotom Wash and Rotom Mow, you don't really want to switch your ground type in on this, because if you predict wrong and it goes for Blizzard, then you kind of lose your ground type. So Volt Switching with this is fairly free. It's also just great bulk, decent speed stat. I'm actually really looking forward to using Rotom Frost this season, because yeah, it filled a void in my team that I desperately needed in the electric type, which is kind of bulky with another defogger. And for 60 points, I thought it was amazing value. And as you can see by our budget, we just don't have much left. I'm gonna take a quick drink. Yeah, we don't have a whole lot left, so effectively we can pick up like two 20-point tier mons and an 80-point tier. I was looking at the options that I had. I decided actually the best option was to try and avoid 20 points altogether, because I felt like that tier was honestly not great. I felt like there wasn't a lot of value in there. Anything that was of value actually got picked up pretty early. So I felt like I would just go with three 40-point mons and try and get the best value I possibly could out of them. So first up, we pick up Greedon. And if you watch my APA Academy run, it only came to one game, but it was a counter to a Dragon Dance Weakness Policy Dragapult. And I will never forget that one game that it came to, and was able to put in so much work. Greedon is actually really good. It's like a mini Snorlax, just like lacking a little bit of what Snorlax actually offers. It has fantastic coverage because it's a normal type, a great attack stat, terrible speed, but it's an anti-Trick Room mon, I guess, on this team, because my team isn't necessarily that slow, but it's also not that quick. Isn't all that quick, but it's not necessarily that slow either. So it does give me something that's kind of anti-trick room. It's got really good defenses as well, and the ability to run Citrus Berry with Cheek Pouch means that you almost get like a second life, and the freest Swords Dance in my opinion in the game outside of Mimikyu. So yeah, Greedon is a low tier, low key threat, and you definitely got to respect it. It's not going to come to every game. It's a 40-point tier mon. It's going to be there for when we need a good ghost check, for potentially a time where the coverage just really works against a team, or for example they have a trick room team. Greedon is going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to using it again. Hopefully I can use it a little bit more than I did in APA Academy, and I think with this team it should be able to come to more than just one game and put in tons of work. Next up we pick up Pinsir, and this thing never gets drafted. It just never does. It's extremely underrated in my opinion though. It's a decent Choice Scarf option with a great attack stat. It gets access to Stealth Rock, decentish coverage I guess. It's not amazing coverage, but it's enough to actually be able to put in work. Access to Mold Breaker and Moxie as his abilities are actually really helpful, because you can run like a Choice Scarf Moxie set and it's like a lesser Heracross to an extent. Not as good as Heracross obviously by any means, but it does have the ability to run like Mega Horn. Actually, it doesn't get Mega Horn. X is a close combat, as well as something like Earthquake, or I want to say it gets Stone Edge. I'm pretty sure it gets Stone Edge. But yeah, Pinsir is a really good mon. I've actually used it in the PPL back in the day, and it was really good. I brought it to one game and it took out a Zygarde and a Thunderous Furion by itself. So don't sleep on Pinsir, because it actually is a really good budget pick, and especially for 40 points and where I'm needing a Stealth Rocker and a Bug type, I feel like Pinsir really fills that void. Really solid mon, but again, like with Greedon, it's not going to be coming every week, but hopefully when it gets the matchup, it's going to be putting in tons of work. And I'm not going to lie, with my last pick, I had no idea what I wanted. There was so many things that I was like, okay, well I could pick up this, and then it would go in the draft. And I was so set on picking up Lipard, and it almost made it to me, but then it got picked up like 3 or 4 picks before me, and I was devastated. Didn't really know what else to pick up at that point. So I picked up Caracosta, and I'm not going to lie to you, Caracosta might not last a season. It's here, it exists, it's on the team. It's really just here as like another Stealth Rocker. It's got relatively good bulk and a good attack stat. Priority in Aqua Jet. But honestly, that's about it. It's a Shell Smash user, but it's so slow that even after a Shell Smash, it still doesn't do anything. But you know what? If Caracosta comes and puts in work, then I can be proven entirely wrong. This thing could be MVP for the end of the season. I don't know. It's all right, mon. Like I said, defensively pretty good. Typing is actually better in this gen with no Hidden Power Grass. Definitely is a boost for it, but it's so slow that it really can't be on a offensive particularly, because even with Shell Smash, like I said, it's being outsped by so many things. I think it has to be like base 80 or whatever to outspeed it after a +1. It's just not good. So unfortunately we got to end the draft on something that I'm not particularly too keen on, but it might put in work, and I could be completely wrong by the end of the season and be saying that Caracosta is the best mon that I've ever drafted. I don't see it, but you never know. But that wraps up my draft. I'm actually really happy with the draft that I got. I know I was shit talking Caracosta at the end there, but the rest of my draft I think is really, really solid. I'm super happy with my first 8 picks, 9 picks, 10 picks. I don't know. I'm very happy with my draft. I think it's going to be a really fun one to use. Lots of versatility, lots of really threatening mons, like budget picks as well. I don't know. I think this is a really strong draft. I'm excited to use it. If you are excited to watch this team put in work throughout the season, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the battles for the BBR, and also for the UPA, which the draft analysis either has gone up before or after, I'm not entirely sure. But to make sure you don't miss out on either of these leagues, make sure to subscribe if you want to. And yeah, until the next one, have a great day, guys. Peace.